Hi, my name is Sander Dales, CEO of Short Teams. Today I'll have an interview with the Chief Operation Officer at Ragnarok Group, Mr. Denis Kromov. Ragnarok Group, based in Geneva, Switzerland and Kiev, Ukraine, has a remarkable client base, with clients such as MasterCard, Starlight Media, Play Fortuna, Favbet, iLucky, and Vnukovo Airport. During this interview, we'd like you to get acquainted with Mr. Kromov and Ragnarok Group, and I'll ask him to give some wonderful insights about working with a nearshore development team. Okay, Dennis, thank you very much for being with us today. Can you tell me a bit about the Ragnarok Group?
Hey, hey Sander. I will tell you a small story about Ragnarok. So it is 3 years old company, and we built that company to cover several gaps on the local market, such as issues with communication, transparency, lack of accountability, and so on and so forth. And we pretty succeeded with that direction. So we signed great clients on that direction, such as MasterCard, Starlight Media, Favbet, different gambling casinos, supporting even airports in our past experience, as well as we help EU anti-corruption project. So right now we are focusing on expansion in Europe in particular.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so, and can you tell me a bit about your background then? Because how did you start at the Ragnarok? And
Yeah, this is a great question. So I started my career in early 2000, and I worked with the best market leaders in Eastern Europe, from service providers such as EPAM Systems, SoftServe, and I gained my experience there. So I worked with Fortune 500 clients, managed high scalable projects up to 500 people, was responsible for scaling some of them and roll out in huge worldwide solutions there. And at some point, we decided with my partner to, as I mentioned, open Ragnarok agency based on our experience that we could do more and do in some by providing flexibility in our services and fast reaction to issues and increase accountability for what we are doing.
yeah, okay, and so what do you consider then to be your secret sauce? So what are the three, for example, what are the three, leadership principles that you discovered and maybe use in your success?
Yeah, it's common question, and it's from one side it's a simple question, from another side it is hard to answer. So, like for our group, is the client commitment is item number one. Of course, business is business, but we would like to build a strong relationship, and
Yep.
if we are not committed, we could not succeed on that road. Transparency, thanks to tools and thanks to our processes and our flexibility, there should be no skeletons in the cupboard. It's obvious.
Yeah.
And accountability. So we manage client projects as our own, and we show it and to all our employees as well by examples. So from top to bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I think that good principles to have, of course, especially transparency. It's I would say that's useful when you're working remote. That's people have to trust each other. You have to be transparent. So, okay. And so who opened doors for you, or who was a great inspirator for you?
Well, so during my experience, I interact and with projects and different phases and with different issues and problems to resolve, obviously. So, and taking into account current situation and financial crisis the crises that happened for last decade. I must say that one of the leaders that inspired me is Alan Mulally, who saved Ford company, and he's show a great do approach. So he make
Yeah.
tough decisions and stabilized company. And from motivation perspective, I must assume that Richard Branson is a great example also, and his Virgin company is a great company to follow
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah, Richard Branson says he's not really skilled at all. He doesn't have any skills, but the one skill he does have is to find the right people, which I personally like because, that's a skill on its own to find the right people who can actually do the job. And that's how he says he built his I would say, empire, if you would like to say that like that. Right. So, okay. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And his skills, like finding common sense in the complex issues, are also amazing, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot we can all learn, I would say, from him and from the way he does business. Okay, and so
Yep.
looking back at the Ragnarok Group, what is your biggest strength? What do you consider to be your biggest strength?
Yeah, well, to be able to support our commitment, accountability, and transparency is the biggest strength. It's obvious. It's our people, how we are finding them, working with them, inspiring them, and say our appreciation for their results and staying with us. So. Thanks to that, we could produce and nearly almost any complex issues on the market at the moment. From verticals and technology perspective, we interact with majority of modern languages like Java, Python, Ruby on Rails, and even PHP. From industry, we are very close with finance departments and finance direction, working with banks and blockchain implementation as a management system to support different portals and areas, as well as management consulting to improve processes and improve standards inside of the company.
Yeah, which is, it's quite broad, of course, what you're doing. And you have I would say, grown in 3 years' time, maybe a bit over 3 years' time, quite a lot. How do you take care of your staff then, and maybe more even team spirit? I mean, you mentioned, of course, that people are the most important, maybe even the most important part of your business. So how do you take care of them and create team spirit?
Well, this is great. We have one of the best like benefits package in Ukraine for our employees. It's a must for our industry. At the same time, due to pandemic, we need to we show flexibility, and we build lots of additional processes such as team building activities. We moved to online world, so partially we build some small online tournaments in video games, or some small psychological games, just to make sure that we are taking care of them. Also, we are building like small appreciation package, like on a quarterly basis, where people see that we are taking care of them, and we also providing some additional bonus to be able to support their virtual place in their room and facilitate it.
Yeah, because that's I would say, for most companies, that's the most challenging bit, especially now because of the pandemic. People having to work from home, creating a home office, and then actually working together. So it's of course great to hear how you're doing that, and it shows people and it shows companies that you can actually do this, on a permanent basis. Okay, and so what kind of I would say tools do you use for collaboration and remote work?
Oh, well, we used like during these years we use different tools, but we make some kind of a winning formula for us. So we use Google Apps
Mm-hmm.
ecosystems, we use Google Cloud, and we actively use Google Meet.
Yeah.
Resolves lots of like presentation and meeting issues that we had previously, and also we actively use Telegram and bots implemented that help us to streamline our business and ensure transparency. Also, we use Slack and Redmine tools for management and also collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if I would say clients use other tools, it's easy for you to also use them.
Yeah, we have experience with majority of the tool stack, so it is not an issue, and it is one of the critical items that once we are providing a team for a client, we definitely need to make sure that our team will be integrated into client processes as soon as possible. So we will try to streamline that process as much as we can.
Yeah. Okay, and so what are a few resources you would recommend to someone who would start with a remote development team?
Well, it depends on goals, to be obvious. So, to be able to form appropriate vision, I would like to follow probably the best freelance resources first of all, just to make sure, because out of the box they work remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them it is Upwork that definitely shows solid processes and they prove it that they're working, how to work with people, how to find with them, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there could be also very interesting articles in Agile World about how we could adapt Agile practices due
Yeah.
to the fact that the amount of communication in remote team is increasing, and we need to make sure that everybody knows what he is doing and how his work is important and linked to another one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so if a company, if a client would start at the Ragnarok Group and build a team,
Yep.
what would be the ideal start for a team? Maybe
Well,
explain your
this
typical process.
Yep. Yeah. So from process perspective, it's pretty obvious. So we have initial phase where we and some kind of a discovery phase where we start to know each other with the client. We understand his issues, what he's trying to resolve, what he would like to do, what constraints he have at the moment, and so on and so forth. Once we forming a solid requirement, and sometimes we are helping to identify and look to the problem from different angle,
Mm-hmm.
because like there are several issues could be found, such as, for example, a client seeking a DevOps because he knows that DevOps is some kind of magic word in the vault at the moment, but as a matter of fact, he needs only a DBA, for example.
Yeah.
So we are formalizing requirements from a client side and gathering all like dates and limitations from cost perspective, timeline, milestones, and so on and so forth. Once we
Mm-hmm.
know everything, we build in a plan and ways. And it is important that it's obvious each issue or could be resolved by different ways. and we are always providing several ways of doing it and resolving it.
Yeah.
So client always has the flexibility to select appropriate one.
Yeah.
And once client selecting and making a decision, we are starting forming a team, and we once done, we implementing our plan,
Yeah.
and moving it to the next phase. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, first, I would say analyze the situation and what is needed, the end result, and then determining maybe 2 or 3 different options and ways to go. And then after the client decides, actually execute, what you've planned to do.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And so what do you think about the collaboration with short teams?
Well, as of now, we are happy that our roads cross, and we seek and would like to continue our relationship. And we are very thankful for outcome at the moment that we are having from short teams. So we are happy.
Yeah, well, perfect. That's always wonderful to hear, of course. And what do you then consider to be the biggest strength of short teams?
Like the main strengths of short teams is finding clients. So the pipeline and generated pipelines that you are proposing, it's amazing, and it has lots of projects to consider, to work with, and to get some additional details. And I believe that it is just like several steps and several items that we see at the moment, but during the time and long-term perspective, you will find definitely more and more items where short teams could help us, such as
Yeah.
pre-sales, maybe additional pre-sales, some insights, and more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Okay. So I think we're almost there. I'm just curious as a final question, in which direction do you believe IT is moving in, let's say, the next 5 years?
Oh, well, this is a great question, and per my point of view, I think that Vault and IT will be moved to digitalization services, so they will focus on digitalization as many as possible services that we use in different way. Also, we definitely will revise our experience with different hardware due to the fact that pandemic and its consequences like help a lot of people to look to the problems from different ways, from different angle, and as a result, we will definitely needs to focus on user experience. So I believe that user interfaces and interaction, as well as AI and bots, that will allow you to minimize like unfortunately, but minimize interaction between people at some point.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, so digitalization, AI, like user experience, and bots that will suit our needs in the future. So it is
Yeah.
top.
Interesting. And I would say people, yes, people need people in the end, right? But I think we'll find other ways of actually fulfilling that need, right? We can
Yeah.
be far more efficient using bots and AI and still find other ways to actually, fulfill the need of talking to people and interacting with others.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, in our past experience, in our past experience, we interact with a huge store in Arabic country where we help create several bots that propose to their clients like all fresh products, and they build some kind of balance packages and so on and so forth, just to make sure that client didn't forget anything, and
Yeah.
to automate all supply chain, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 So, okay. Well, thank you very much for this interview today and your insights. I'm looking forward to working together with you in the future as well. And
Yep.
everyone, thanks for watching as well. And I hope you learned something. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for taking the time today. We really appreciate that. Would you like us to introduce you to Ragnarok Group or some of our other partners? Let us know in the comments or send us an email at info@shorteams.com.